know what's going on. They have no idea. All
Well,
right.
I'm learning.
Say what?
I'm learning about simulcast. So
You're learning
anyway,
about
really
simulcast. Well, this is like a bootleg simulcast. This is a bootleg version. All right, guys. So welcome to the show, everybody. This is going to be an interesting one. We're going to be covering a very important topic. I have with me a special guest. Mr. Rose is on here. Would you like to just introduce yourself before I get into what the topic is going to be? So feel free.
Hi, my name is Brad Roars. I run the Roars team. So we focus on West African development, and we work with the diaspora to assist them in transitioning from the Western world to investments, home purchases, and oftentimes retirement in West Africa.
And how did you talk to us about how you found the platform, the kind of work that you do on social media? Because I know a lot of people are familiar with your material on Africa.
Sure. So I started in West Africa, in Cote d'Ivoire, doing analytics for companies, particularly companies that were doing proposals to international banks and even like international monetary funds. We were working with them on their financial statements. From there, we were connected with several developers. We made some friends. We started working in the development space a few years after that. And as a result, we ended up as an investor and a partner on several developments, including the Montgomery Gulf Estates in Accra, Ghana. And so that's how we've ended up here. We started the channel primarily because I was dealing with objections for people who were purchasing properties, and I wanted to use TikTok, social media, as a way to practice. And then when it turned out that lots and lots of people watched the videos and they started buying properties off the platform, well, we just kept doing it. So that's why I'm still here. So I'm very happy and I'm honored to have everyone in my audience, and I'm very honored to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, no, I mean, like I said, I've had you on a few times, and I think you bring a lot of value to the community. We were going to do a show about that, but that's not what today's show is going to be about specifically. I mean, we might talk about it later on, but I think that, yeah, you do bring value, and I think it's important being able to hear from people with your perspective when it comes to African affairs, because I think that there is some necessity for collaboration in working together with people of the Western communities, as long as they're aligned with the best interests of the African continent, just based on logistics and experience and navigating some of the barriers that exist when dealing with Western interests when it comes to developing the continent. That being said, what I wanted to talk about today, before I get into that, make sure everybody who's listening in, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Hit the subscribe button. If you, this is a members only chat. It's a members very special show. It's a members only chat show. But if you wish to become a member, you can go to my channel, click the link to join the membership. That will allow you to chat, but you'll also be supporting the channel. If you would also be interested in signing up to the newsletter, the Alkebulan newsletter. Thank you very much there on TikTok. The Alkebulan newsletter, you can go to www.alkebulan.media to sign up to the newsletter. Very, very important that you're all signed up to that, because that is algorithm free and it goes directly into your email. We are at over 3,000 sign-ups on the newsletter. We're pushing towards 4,000. My goal is 100,000. That is the holy grail for the newsletter. So hopefully we will get there. Now, let's get into this topic. So the US invited Kenya to NATO. Well, they didn't get them into NATO per se. I mean, they invited them as a special friend of NATO. That's what they're called, a friend of NATO. So they're basically in NATO, because the idea being, if NATO decides to do something, all the friends of NATO are essentially expected to support and follow suit. So it's essentially the Commonwealth scenario. Now, for everybody who doesn't know what NATO is, and I've said this and I've explained it to you before, what NATO actually is. NATO was created after World War II by the Allies after the defeat of the Nazis in anticipation of a possible attack or threat from the USSR, okay? Even though the USSR, aka Russia, supported the Allies during World War II, They saw them as a future threat and decided to create a security force for Europe to repel a possible attack from Russia. And over the years, obviously, NATO has expanded more and more and more to what you've ended up with Ukraine being the last country left that wasn't in NATO that they want to get into NATO, which has precipitated the Russia-Ukraine conflict that we're dealing with. That's a summary, so I'm simplifying things, but that's the basic idea. Did I miss anything out?
No, I think that you got it as best as you could in a quick summary.
All right. So the reason why I wanted to summarize that is the importance of what NATO represents and the fact that NATO is a European entity that Africans have really nothing to do with. I mean, it's not really about us. So the fact that an African country is now becoming a friend, essentially being invited into this organization, people were like, oh, they're not in NATO. Well, they sort of are, because it's a security force and they're using the friends of NATO are essentially supporting them. When I heard about this state visit, the first visit by an African nation in 16 years to the United States, 16 years, guys, I wasn't surprised, I wasn't surprised. And I wasn't even surprised that it was Kenya, personally, for various reasons, one of them being that the Kenyan president seems to be very pro-West, like he just very pro-West, for want of a better word. And wasn't he just named one of the most influential people in the world on Time magazine? Mm-hmm. These sort of things are not accidental. He gets named most influential man one of the most influential people in the world. And a month or two later, he's invited to America as the first African country in 16 years, and then invited to NATO. And on top of that, given $250 million and told that America is going to help him deal with the debt that he owes China, as if China were calling in the debt. Like, it wasn't even an issue. Like, that's what so I wasn't surprised for those reasons. What's your perspective?
So neither was I. I was not. Well, I would point out that I wasn't sure which country or which president would be selected to be the partner of the Western world with the rise of BRICS. Back in 2008, it was, I believe, John Kufuor from Ghana, who was invited to spend some time with an official state visit to the United States, and afterwards they had a very pro Western position, really, which when Cote d'Ivoire was going through their turmoil, gave the U.S. a really nice political base to press their influence on. With Kenya, it was kind of the reason I would have suspected it was Kenya was because it wasn't that long ago, June of 2023. The Kenyan president was talking almost like he was against America and the Western world.
Wait, when was this?
In
2023. Okay.
In 2023, the president then had stated that the African countries needed to move away from the U.S. dollar.
This is last year.
This is just last year.
Okay.
And so I didn't know if he was going to end up like Saqqara, or I didn't know if he was going to end up stabbing the coalition of BRICS in the back. And maybe that's a little too strong of a word to use here. And I think you had commented that it may not have been the chess move that some people think it is. But yes. So, I mean, I was curious if you could elaborate on that. So some people believe that the president of Kenya was making a smart move, kind of playing both sides and aligning themselves with the West. What is your thoughts on this for the people in the audience?
So this is the thing. All right. Let's break this down.
Okay.
We're going to get philosophical on this.
Okay.
When you're playing a game inherently has to be created by someone, right? Somebody makes the game, creates the rules and all those sort of things. And if you're playing a game of chess, for example, the creators of the chess game created a set of rules, and as you as a player and myself as a player, we can't do anything about the rules. The rules are the rules. So you could play chess with me and you could make a fantastic checkmate. I'm like, listen, I'm checkmated. I can't get out of this. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. I've lost. Or you could play a move that puts me in a tight position. So I have to sacrifice some pawns or so all of these sorts of things. Now, the funny thing now is that when I hear all this chess move, chess move, chess move, I say, it depends on the game that's being played. That's the real question. If you're playing America's game, America made the rules of that game. So you can't checkmate the guy who created checkmate within that game because he will just change the rules if you checkmate him. That's the reality. The problem and the thing I've been trying to explain to Africans from the entire existence of my channel and my platform is we shouldn't even be thinking about playing the game. They are the game. America is the game. How do you beat the game when the game is America? The trick that is being played on you is making you think they're just a player. Because as long as you think they're just a player, you think you can play the game. The house always wins, as they say in Vegas. You never beat the house. Because if you get close enough, they just change the rules. That's how Vegas works. That's why Vegas has never lost. It's like when you get close enough, they just change the rules. So the thing I keep trying to explain to people is that you think an African is going to waltz over to Washington, D.C. and play America. You really believe that? That they're going to walk in there and then whatever President William Ruto is doing, America never considered it. They never thought about it. Oh my goodness, he played us. You're insane. Everything that ever happens where the United States or the United Kingdom is concerned, because make no mistake, the United Kingdom is the grandfather of the US. All this stuff that when you see them, oh, it's just a tiny little island. America's, no. England controls America. Like, all this stuff is a facade that you're seeing of like, oh, America. No. That's not how it works. When you look at Bretton Woods, for example, and the fact that Bretton Woods did what it did with the financial system, and to this day, it has not changed. What interest does America have of the pound being stronger than the dollar? Why? None. So doesn't that tell a logical person that something else is going on? If you have any logic, don't you say that, wait a minute, there is actually no reason economically, practically, for the united mighty American economy to be beholden financially to a little island in the North Sea. There's no reason for that. Unless what is really going on is not what you think is going on. Unless all the politics that you see and all the power games that you see are just that, games. Exactly. So when I see this, I laugh. I just say, look, William Ruto, this is personal. In my opinion, this is my opinion. It's personal for him. How can I leverage this situation for myself? That's how I see it. I don't view it as all this other stuff about for the interests of Kenya, for the country. That's all window dressing. It's talk. It's like the Paul Kagame stuff and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, there is nothing positive to come out of deepening your relationship with a country that has done nothing but exploit Africa for hundreds of years. There's no reason for it, especially at a time when real options are being put on the table. What are your thoughts of it? I know I said a lot, but what are your thoughts?
Well, so I think that DC has sort of an entrancing aspect to it. I spend a lot of time in Washington, D.C. when I'm not in Africa. This is my home base when I'm not there. And people tend to DC has a way to bring people in. It has sort of, it seems strange. It's a bunch of older, whiter people for the most part, but it has a way of bringing people in. I think that a lot of leaders like to be a part of the club. They feel like they're going to be elevated beyond their peers. It almost reminds me of that movie 300, where Xerxes says, "The all of Greece will bow at your feet if you just bow at mine." Some people say yes to that, and some people say no. And I'm going to be curious, and I've actually been itching to ask your thoughts on this. How do you feel it's going to play out in the mid and long term for countries like Burkina Faso, who have taken an independent position from the United States,
Right.
versus someone like Kenya? And I do believe the president is very likely. It's a possibility, a strong possibility. He's making friends for his post presidency.
Oh,
Um,
yes. Oh,
but
yes. Exactly. That's all this
a
is. That's
well,
all it is personal.
I'm from DC, so we would say it's a strong possibility.
This is all personal. This is his retirement plan. That's what it is. It's a retirement plan. Now, listen, very good question. Definitely a big part of this conversation. Now, you see, there have been a lot of coups in West Africa over the last 2 years, 24 months.
Yeah.
Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Gabon. I don't count Gabon because I don't view
I
it as
don't
a real
count that
coup.
either.
Yeah, so, but then Chad now just didn't have a coup, but they just kicked France out. Now, all those coups now install fiercely anti-Western regimes, like fiercely that they do not want anything to do with America. They don't want anything to do with France. These guys are as anti-America and the West as you can get. Niger kicks out the French military and invites Russian military onto the ground in Niger. We can talk about that a bit later because I think it was a good move. So they do that, and to add insult to injury, they house the Russian troops in the same barracks as the American troops, which was funny to me. Now, as all of this is happening, America is scrambling because the usual playbook is when an African country gets out of line, you go to your good boys and you say, hey, could you smack these guys around a little bit, get them back into line, aka ECOWAS. And then ECOWAS does what they do. They sanction those countries, cut them off from resources, and those countries fall into line. They tried that. Now, the problem is that we've never had, in the modern era, a Captain Traore. We've not had that. We haven't had a Captain Traore since the original crop of leaders in Africa after independence, all of whom got assassinated or dethroned. That was the last wave of leaders that thought like he does. When I say think like he does, we've had people who think like him, but not the courage to act on that feeling independently. That is the beauty of him. It's like, he's like, I'll put my life on the line. We're not doing this anymore. This is what we're going to do. What that has done is that it's emboldened Assimi Goïta in Mali, emboldened Tiani in Niger, emboldened Doumbouya of Guinea, emboldened Chad. Cameroon is now looking. Ivory Coast, like a lot of people are looking and saying, my goodness, it's possible to do this. I didn't think we could get away with this. Usually when people do this, they get assassinated. How the hell is this happening? Everybody's looking and saying, these people are still alive. They're still breathing. That is dangerous. Very dangerous. Now, this is what I call a chess move. You see, people who call chess moves, I'm going to tell you what a chess move is. Mm-hmm. As this is happening, what does America start doing? They start saying, yeah, we're very concerned about Niger's relationship with Syria and the Russians. Mm-hmm. And you know that these are terrorist states and Niger has a lot of uranium. You know, they might start selling uranium to these terrorist states. All that is laying a foundation to designate Niger as a terrorist state. Mm-hmm. Because what would then happen is that in 6 months, a year's time, there will be an attack on a U.S. interest somewhere in the world. And upon investigation, they will find that the uranium or troops used came from Niger. And then the American people will be sold the narrative that we've got to go into Niger because it's a question of national security. They're attacking America. And then you will get Americans to support American troops going into an African country to do regime change. And they won't go in themselves. They'll do it the way they did it with Libya. They will just support indigenous people, quote unquote, to do regime change. That is exactly the way it goes. Now, once that happened, what do Niger do? They get on the call to Vlad. Vladimir says, listen, I'll hook you guys up. Sends troops into Niger. Now, once you've got Russian troops in Niger, you've got a problem now. This is what I call a checkmate. America now look at that and say, how do we designate Niger a terrorist state when Russia has taken responsibility for their security? So for us to do this, we would have to attack a country being protected by Russia, potentially harming or unaliving Russian troops on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That is not something you want to do.
Well, the people who control the hands of power here, they absolutely don't want an open engagement with either Russia or China. That would be detrimental to the economy, to their pocketbooks, unless they have some super secret move I don't know about. That costs a lot of money and a lot of stability to a lot of people. And it puts the status of the U.S. as a reserve currency on the line. I have said this before, that the U.S.'s status as a reserve currency is not an economic issue, but a military issue. And as soon as there's a crack in the facade of, and I shouldn't call it a fake facade, a facade, but when there's a crack in the belief that the U.S. military is unbeatable, more people will have the idea that they can go away from the U.S. dollar.
Yes.
When they don't, when the U.S. dollar is not the reserve currency, the U.S. runs a huge debt.
Right.
Much of that is from the U.S. military.
Right.
As long as we're the reserve currency, it pays for itself easily. The U.S. military is very profitable for America. Without the reserve currency, it's a liability that can't sustain itself very long. And that's part of the moves that are going on behind the scene. And I think that's part of Russia's big interest in Africa.
No, 100%, which is where the BRICS situation comes in. Look, Russia doesn't like the U.S. They haven't liked them for a very long time. They've been trying to break America for a long time. And this is their best chance they've had ever. Like, I don't think they've never been in this position before. They've never been in a position where there is a clear and present weakness in the armor, and they've been able to genuinely exploit it. Because Russia has been running around using Afghanistan, Middle East, China, and all these sort of fringe areas. Because when they were fostering relationships with China in the 80s and 90s, China wasn't what it was now.
No, they weren't.
When they were fostering relationships with the Middle East and empowering Afghanistan and all these people, they were not in any position to threaten America, like whatsoever. And certainly the Middle East was not what it is today in the 80s.
Of course not.
So Russia's never been in a position where the people they're allying with are genuinely powerful in terms of what they could do to their mortal enemy, the United States of America, till now with Africa. You see, the thing is, and which is why I said that Vladimir played an amazing game. The weakness of America with Africa is their racism. That's the weakness. All you had to do was respect these people. That's it. You could still get what you want if you just respected them and gave them a modicum of fair recompense for what you're taking out. It is the flagrant disrespect and abuse and exploitation that has left them open to the Chinese and the Russians to come in and offer tangibles in exchange for resources.
And something I think you're hitting on is a fundamental misunderstanding that people in the Western world have with regards to what racism is and how it's considered. So a lot of people consider liking someone. I can't be racist because I like this individual. I have a friend of this race. However, it comes down to respect. Do you treat them with autonomy?
Yes.
If you are lecturing Africans, in despite of your own clear hypocrisy on certain issues, you are going to be perceived as being racist, and it's going to be confusing. You're going to say, I don't dislike you for being black, but the reality is that based on the actions, they haven't been respected. And
Right.
so respect will not be reciprocated. And as guys, we tend to gravitate towards individuals who respect and honor us as men, not people who treat us as indignant children.
Right. No, exactly. And I think that that is the real issue here for America, is that they don't know how to respect Africa. You see, their reaction now is to invite an African nation into an organization that is categorically designed to protect Europe and the West. Their reaction is not to offer to build Kenya a nuclear reactor.
No.
That is they're not even considering doing something like that, because that is not what America does for Africa. They don't do that sort of thing for Africa. They don't empower Africa, because you would think that, oh, Russia, we're going to one up you. Hey, Kenya, come. These are the deals we're going to offer. That's all you need to do. If you want Africa to get on side with you, you offer them better deals than what Russia and China are doing. But the reality is that America do not want an empowered Africa. That's the thing. It's like, because if you empower them, you automatically end up in a situation where the, how do I put it? The cost of your goods or the minerals that you're taking out of these countries dramatically skyrockets. And then back home, you've got an issue in terms of taking care of yourself.
Right. But I wouldn't assume that America is necessarily going to lose this fight simply because they're offering the worst deal. Because America doesn't win with just simply negotiating on a fair playing field. America is able to get what they want oftentimes by identifying key leaders, grooming them, offering them the security for them, their family, et cetera, access to the Western world. That's how they win. And if they can get enough of the critical leaders to come over to their side, well, it doesn't matter if Russia is offering debt-free nuclear power for every single country. If the other side controls the leaders, there's nothing that the people can do. So it does come onto the people, and you want people like what we have in Burkina Faso,
Right.
if you want to see that.
Yes, but you see, now that's my point. You are 100% correct, and that's what's changing. You see, typically, the Burkina Faso president wouldn't survive. The
No.
Mali president wouldn't survive. The Niger president wouldn't survive. And the thing is, what they would usually spin, this is why things are so crazy right now. Typically, what would happen is that even if you had a coup and a good leader came in, the spin of the narrative in the media would be that they're a despot and they're harming their own people. There wasn't any social media to counteract that narrative. So the official narrative is the only narrative. If TikTok existed in 2011, Gaddafi might actually still be alive.
100%.
The reason why Gaddafi went down is that the narrative was completely controlled by the United States and the West. So they just made him out to be like, this is what's happening. This is exactly who he is. This is why he's got to go down. This is why he's got to be taken out. It was a Twitter assassination. Like, that's really what it was. So when you look at Western social media, I'm like, look, all of these things, it's TikTok that singular app changed everything. It just changed everything, because through TikTok, you can actually see the difference between Instagram, X, Twitter, YouTube, all of those things when you look at what TikTok is. You go on TikTok and you're like, the flavor of what you're getting is very, very different in terms of what is pushed to you. That's the key. You see, on YouTube, the video will exist. It exists on YouTube, right? The information exists, but it's suppressed. It's not getting to the people it should get to. That's the difference. So what that does, it allows YouTube to say, we're not suppressing anybody. It's just the algorithm. It's not, if you make a better video, then the video will get, just make a better video. And then, nonsense. Look at the kind of nonsense videos that get pushed and get 120 million views. We see that all the time. These videos, well, how good are these videos? Or these creators, you watch what they're making. Then you see somebody who's making fantastic content, has no views whatsoever. But you look at what they're making and you're like, well, the message, this isn't what these guys want to push. And I think that is the key difference between TikTok and any of these platforms, is that for some reason, and listen, TikTok will censor you, but it depends. It just depends on because they're doing what the West is doing, but for different reasons. So depending on what you're making. So if you're really, I can make African content, for example, but it depends on what kind of African content I'm making.
I think I've told you that I had at one point 7 of my 8 videos on Pan-African currencies and the ways in which that would be implemented absolutely just taken off the platform. This has happened many times. I was allowed to talk about anything else, but I can't talk about African currency. For some reason, that was against.
Did they really take off? Did they really take it off?
Yes.
What did they say? For what reason?
Community guidelines.
What guideline did they say you broke?
Community guidelines. Harmful content.
So they didn't give you anything else?
No.
Wow. Yeah.
No, and there's also just so you know, it's not all TikTok. Okay, there are groups that go around, special interest groups.
Oh yes, to just report you.
And they do that to suppress narratives, not just Africans, but everyone. And I would like to make that as a segue for why I think that your newsletter is so important and why everyone who's watching right now should take control of their own flow of information. When you go and you subscribe to email channels like what yours are, what's happening is that you're controlling. No one else is telling you what information goes into your inbox. It's direct to you.
Precisely.
When you're going to TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, they're all, it's all
someone else is telling you.
Someone else is telling you exactly what you get to hear. And you don't get to hear from the source. And one other point, the content creators that you're following, they're able to be much more direct and authentic with the content that they put out on a newsletter because they're not appealing to any third-party algorithm. They're appealing directly to what's important for you. And so I want to see you get to 100,000 because just the information that you're giving on this newsletter, I read it all the time.
Oh, do you read my newsletter?
Yes, I read your newsletter.
Oh, good. Okay.
Whenever it comes out, it's when I have a long train ride into DC. Yes, of course I'm going through your newsletter. You put a lot of work into it, and you save me time
I do.
Because you research for me and gives me some content ideas from time to time.
Okay.
When I have to do videos.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, what you're saying is very true. And till you just mentioned it now, guys, it's www.alcaboland.media is the newsletter. It's on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
For those on YouTube, if you're on TikTok, it's www.alcabolan.media, or you go to the link in my bio and you click the link in my bio and you'll see the Alcabolan newsletter link in there as well. What you're saying is very true. Until you just said that, I think that, that's something we should focus on because you know what's funny? I get to 100,000 or 1 million subscribers on the newsletter. Do you know the kind of power that gives you of information? That's
power to your readers. To your readers.
That's what I'm saying, to the readers. Because, for example, like you have something that you need to get out, and anybody in the community needs to get a message out. I know I can get it to people. I know I can. It's got nothing to do. I've got the email addresses, and it's a very, very powerful thing because this is the old school before computers. This is the way it was done in my parents' time. And when I was a young kid, it was mail. And once they had your mailing address, that was how everybody disseminated information, and email just replaced that. And I think this algorithm thing, it is very dangerous. The fact that we're even talking about the William Ruto and the Kenyan thing now is part of this whole conversation because we know how this story would be spun or is being spun as we speak. This story has flooded Western media. It is nowhere to be seen in African news, like just nowhere. The reason why it's flooded Western media is that this is the narrative they want to put forward in terms of what African relationships with America is supposed to be. That is why William Ruto was named one of the most influential people in Africa. Who the hell is he influencing? Like, I read that, I was like, I never even, I know his name. That's it. Who is he influencing? Most influential. I was like, Captain Traore in Africa is literally one of the most influential people in Africa, of Burkina Faso.
But we don't want to talk about
They
him.
don't want to talk about
We
him.
don't want to talk about that guy. And how many people out there are going to hear his name right now? They're intentionally keeping Westerners in the dark, Africans in the dark on what's happening. I was actually had a conversation today with an individual from Burkina Faso where I was talking about some of the things that they were being implemented in there.
Right.
She had no idea. She's
Right.
born in Burkina Faso,
Right.
perfect French, all of that.
Doesn't even know.
She has no clue what's going on in her own country. She's got a
Crazy.
white guy telling her what's going on. That
Yeah.
should not happen.
That shouldn't happen.
No.
That shouldn't happen. That's actually embarrassing.
But
That's actually embarrassing.
But if I was to go, I would hate to put my friends on the spot here, but if I was to go around the African community here in Washington, D.C., how many of them are going to be properly up to date on really what's going on? They probably think, Burkina Faso, they must be doing so terribly. Things are just going bad. They're in a civil war, aren't they?
No, right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. No, exactly. Hey, TikTok, if you can hear us clearly, give a 1. If you're having any audio issues, give a 2 in the chat. 1 if the audio and video is clear on TikTok. 2 if there are any issues. Just making sure for those guys. No, listen, you are 100% correct. And I think this is, look, you know what? I don't want to even overstate this, but you know, the things that we're talking about right now, 2. Are you having issues? Somebody said 2. What's wrong with the audio and video on TikTok? Can you let me know in the comments, please?
Well, this is to subscribers only, I believe, on TikTok right now. So
no, TikTok isn't. No, TikTok is open in terms of the video. Yeah, the video is members only on YouTube chat. The TikTok stream, as is on YouTube, is open, so people should be able to hear us. My voice is echoing. Hold on. Let me make sure that my voice is not. It said that my voice is echoing. Let me make sure that my voice is not echoing. Okay, audio. No, I should not be echoing. I should not be echoing. And is your volume down on your TikTok?
My volume would be down on my headphone.
Turn your TikTok volume all the way down.
All right, so
it's all the way down now.
It should
on your phone.
It should be all the way down. All
right, guys, is the echoing gone on TikTok? It should be gone now. It was probably coming from your end because it was probably they could probably hear the TikTok audio as well. Yeah, probably. Anyway, now look, this is the thing. Okay, it's good now. 1, yeah, it's fixed. So look, you know, I feel like where we are now and the conversation that we're having is so important because ignorance is our biggest enemy. People don't understand what we're saying and why it matters. No matter how much you say it, they don't get it. They don't understand, for example, like I said this to people a while ago, and I said, God, let me give you a perfect example. I did a story recently about the UAE buying up 20% of multiple African countries, you know, which they have, 20% on average of multiple African. They own a piece of Africa now bigger than the United Kingdom. Just let that sink in. The UAE, Dubai, own a piece of Africa larger than the UK. Not England. I'm talking England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland combined. The land they own in Africa is bigger than that. and it's all for carbon offsets. Okay.
Now, do people don't understand really what's going on here? So help us understand, what is this carbon offset thing? Why would we buy land in Africa for
All
off?
right.
Help me understand.
All right. So basically, carbon offsets is where so there was something called the Paris Agreement in 2014, where all these
Right.
countries got together and they agreed that they were going to reduce their emissions, carbon emissions, greenhouse gases caused from industrial production and industrial work. Now, the UAE, in efforts to do that, and in fact, America, they started buying up massive amounts of land. And the idea being is that you don't cut down the trees, you buy land that has trees on it, or you plant trees. And trees obviously absorb carbon dioxide in the air. So they reduce carbon emissions. So you pump out X emissions, and then the amount of trees you have absorb them. So carbon offsets are certificates which are allocated based on the amount of trees you have, amount of forest land you have. And you can then go and sell those credits to corporations so that they can put out pollution equivalent to the amount of offsets credits that they have.
Hold on. So that the audience understands exactly what you're saying, right?
Okay.
Because this okay. Instead of the Western world stopping emitting CO2,
Yes.
what they are doing is that they're purchasing large parts of Africa, saying, Africa,
Yes.
you can no longer develop your own
Yes.
land,
Yes.
so that we can continue to create production.
Yes.
So CO2 does not go down. The only effect here is that Africa can't develop, but it does not actually stop CO2.
No, it doesn't stop CO2. And what's even worse about this is, but what's even worse about this is that the government's selling the land to, and it's leasing. It's not, they're leasing the land for 30. It's the same thing. It's like you're leasing the land for so long, a lot of people won't even be alive by the time it's free again, Regardless, the idea is that what makes this so bad is that they're not telling the African people in those countries before the sale gets made. So if you're in any of these countries, the governments are just doing these deals. They're not having a referendum. They're not talking to the people. They're not nothing. They're just doing it. Go on.
In Ghana, where let's say we have a 2 million house deficit, a shortage. We need to build 2 million houses to keep up with population right now. Where actually our governments are similar situations across Africa. They're halting the construction of property for families and construction of value-added manufacturing areas so that the West can continue to pollute. Just so I'm logical here, just so I understand the logic.
Yes. And yes, I mean, that is technically, not even technically, that's literally what's happening. And, on the list of countries,
support this if they knew about it.
Yeah, but nobody would support it, because the idea is that, look, these countries who are buying up this land, for example, the Liberian deal is for 30 years, and the UAE company, Blue Carbon is the name of the company, will make 70% of the profits on the sale of those credits.
So we're not even getting money in Africa.
They're getting 30%. Look, there's obviously probably some backhanded deals going on or whatever. The point about it, though, is that this is the point. I wrote about carbon offsets last year, and I begged people to watch my video and to read my article on the newsletter. Everybody ignored me. It was one of my lowest viewed videos. Nobody watched it. Nobody cared. And when I made this video, I said, guys, pay attention to this, because we have a lot of trees in Africa. I literally said that. That's the crazy part. I literally go and watch the video again and look at the date I posted the video, and then look at my article when I wrote the article.
You were so ahead of the curve, MERC.
I said it. I said there are a lot of trees in Africa, so you better pay attention to JP Morgan spending $500 million on trees in America, because Africa has a lot of trees. So they're going to be coming over to Africa to start buying up Africa. Lo and behold, we fast forward, that's exactly what's been going on. Now, that's the reason why, going back to what we were saying before, and I said, look, when I try to create these audiences and everything, I say, look, this is not even about the West or anything. It's about our own ignorance. We simply don't know anything. So if we don't start actively engaging in the conversation and trying to educate ourselves, we are going to continuously be at a disadvantage.
Let me point something out here, just for those of the Africans right here in the audience. This isn't just the idea of these trees being set aside. That's not what that's a big issue. It's not just the fact that it's being taken advantage from a monetary standpoint.
Right.
It's that when Africa goes to enter the value-added marketplace in the global economy, they're not going to be able to offset their carbon. They're going to be told, you can't do this manufacturing because you've already leased out your trees that would have been used for the offsets. So all those jobs are gone. All those businesses are gone.
Right.
And you're just going to be a place where people take raw resources from because you sold yourself short. So I'm not saying don't think about right, wrong. Just think about your own pocketbooks. This is taking your businesses from you.
No, right. No, 100%. Look, that is the reason why I'm saying that William Ruto going to America and doing this deal and talking about debt and, becoming part of NATO is such a bad idea. But it's a sellout. You're selling out. It's a sellout idea because you should be focused on making BRICS work or on making alternative options work. That is your focus. Instead of you joining NATO, you should be like, how do we create an African coalition? Join the Sahel Alliance. Go and do something like that. Like, why are you getting involved in that organization?
You brought up a point earlier on where you said, well, what the heck are we getting out of this, right? Russia's offering, nuclear plants. They're offering value-added assistance. When I'm actually sitting there, I'm reading what's being offered from America. They're offering not to reinstate tariffs on African goods. So it's basically, we're going to tax you. We're going to drive you out of office. We're going to crush your economy if you don't be a good boy. Now,
basically,
maybe we're off on this, and he really is a three-dimensional chess player. But from where I'm looking at, it seems like he's selling himself and his country a bit short.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. This is what I say when people talk about chess moves. Let's be hypothetical. What's the chess move? Just give me a hypothesis. What's the chess move?
The chess move is like taking your rook, moving it here, moving it there, moving it here, moving it there, moving it here, moving it there. You're staying in one place. That's the only chess move that I see happening here.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, what is exactly? Because I'm like, what are you gaining?
If there was something better on the table, do you not think that he would be up in the hilltop screaming about this? Like, guys, I have just got this amazing thing for Kenya. We're now going to be doing all of this manufacturing, and we're now a preferred trade partner, and all this debt is being forgiven. No, it's just they're not going to put tariffs on us. And I got to sit in the president's chair. That's going to go down as one of the most cringy pictures of all time. You go there, you get patted on your head, and you sit down in a chair, and they say, you are a good boy. Yes, you are. You get to sit in the president's chair.
Oh, wait a minute. Is that what happened?
Yes.
I didn't even
see that. It's not the patting on the head part. That's more metaphorical.
But he sat in the president's chair. When did that happen?
There was a picture of it on ABC News.
Wait a minute. In the Oval Office?
Yeah, there was a picture of him. There's a picture of him.
You see, that's not a good picture.
That's something that like a kid would do. That's like what you
Wait a minute. Can you send me that photo?
All right.
Let me post that. Actually, you know what? Let me see. Ruto president's chair. Let me see if I can find that image. I think I see. Wait.
Oh, I got it. It's on YouTube. It is on YouTube. I'm going to share.
It's on YouTube. Okay.
I'm sending it over to you right now.
All right.
I'm going to send this over to the illustrious MERC, the defender of truth and justice in Africa.
Okay, where did you send it?
Now you have, I believe that link should work. I'll test the link real quick that I sent to you.
Where did you send it?
There you go. Isn't he I
U.S.
mean, he
state
looks like a
visit.
very good boy there.
Oh
He's
no, no, that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. That's
oh my
actually
god.
unacceptable. Hold on, let me show
Oh,
let me
come
screen
on.
share.
He got to sit in the big boy chair.
Let me put that up on the screen. Hold on, let me see. Where is it? Ruto. Where is
Uh,
that? I just put it Chrome tab.
just an
See.
FYI to individuals in your audience, when it says the community filtered for the good experience or anything like that, that is not us. TikTok does that. That is not us at all. So
Yeah, we didn't do that. I'm trying to
yeah, we
find
don't
the.
censor it. We encourage
Okay, I
comments
found it.
even if they're silly. Get the conversation going.
All right, all right. I just got it. I'm gonna try and make it. It's a video, you said.
I sent the whole picture.
I'm trying to get this to just come up. Open image in a new tab. Ah, okay, I've got it now. Yes, excellent. Okay, there we go.
Again,
There we go.
that not the best look ever.
There we go. There you have it, lads. That is the image for the ages. You see, when I look at a picture like this, let me explain to you what's the problem I have with this image. I'm going to explain to you. So, for the people who are watching on TikTok who you cannot see this image, there is a photograph of Joe Biden standing and the president of a country, not the child of a country, not the nephew, not the niece, not the cousin. The president of a country is sitting in the president's chair in the Oval Office, smiling. There we go. Yes, hold on to that picture. Now, I'm going to explain to people why there's a problem with this image. You see, the president of Canada doesn't see anything exciting about sitting in the president's chair in the Oval Office. Joe Biden wouldn't even think to offer Trudeau the opportunity, quote unquote, to sit in the president's chair. Rishi Sunak going to visit America would see nothing special about sitting in the president's chair in the Oval Office. Joe Biden would never offer Rishi Sunak, would you like to sit in my chair and take a photograph with him? It wouldn't happen. There is no European president or leader that would go to the Oval Office and sit in the president's chair and take a picture smiling as they're sitting in the president's chair. It's just not going to happen. It just
That
wouldn't be
is the
something you would think about doing.
Merc, that's the equivalent of your wife going and sitting on another man's lap. That is the equivalent of that.
Listen. Yeah, I mean, that's even more extreme. I mean, look, that to me says, this image says a lot, in terms of what is going on here.
Yeah.
As you said, it's like William, Mr. Ruto, like there should be no excitement about this. Like, this is not something,
No.
you're president of an entire country, and a country called Kenya, which is historic country, a country that existed before America, not as a country, but a people's. It
It
existed before
existed.
America.
It was a country, it was just different borders.
I mean, it was different borders, yeah, but it existed pre-America.
Yeah, of course, yes.
So there is nothing about the United States that should excite you. They should be excited coming to Kenya. That should be the excitement. They should be excited coming to your country. So when I see this, and then you think about the state visits and you think about what was happening, you just realize that, my God, we are not making any advancement. This is the reason why the leaders of African nations need to be people that have grown within a society where this would not excite them. A guy who went to school and has experienced things differently, you're not going to sit in a situation where you've gotten to the point of being president of a country in Africa and think that, hey, you know what? If I can get an opportunity to go to the White House, I want to sit in the president's chair. Like, what? Very, very disturbing image.
It's again, to me, that shows submissiveness. It shows obedience. And I don't know if he is smiling for Kenya so much as he's smiling for his own future.
I think it's for
And
himself, yes.
yeah, and I am. I was cautiously optimistic with him. We'll see. Perhaps he knows something that we don't know, and this really is a three-dimensional chess move.
No, 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 no,
But
no.
I don't.
Listen, I don't like that because I want you to tell me what the chess move could be. What could it possibly
All
be
right.
in the best
I
case
mean, I have
scenario?
got to stretch here. I have got to
All
stretch.
right.
This could be, but bear in mind to the audience, I am stretching. I know I'm stretching right now.
All
All
right.
right. So if I'm defending our president here of Kenya, I could say, all right, I'm doing sort of like a Donald Trump thing where I'm trying to play both sides against each other. I want Russia and China to see me cozying up so much to Joe Biden that they overreact and just offer the sun, the moon, and the stars to me and my country. And when I say, okay, they offered something better, now as a result, I got a better deal than I otherwise would have gotten from the Russians and the China. And now I got two nuclear power plants, not just the one I would have gotten before. So, have I gone off the deep end, Merck? Am I off the deep end? Am I making science fiction fantasy now? Is that even a possibility?
That is not as crazy a stretch as you thought it was. I mean, I think that's a decent hypothesis. That's decent. I don't think it's true. I really
I,
don't think it's true.
I
But I think
want
it's a
it to be
decent
true.
hypothesis.
I would say I want it to be true.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so because I think that Russia and China have made it clear what they're willing to do. They've followed through on that multiple times. It's not as if Kenya has been fighting with Russia and China over any issue that they
No,
couldn't get around. The whole thing about the debt with China, it's not like China were pressuring. This is the thing about debt with countries. They're not going to go to war to you because you owe them money. What will happen is that they will then, oh, verify to continue. Wow, I've never seen that on TikTok before. It asked me to verify to continue the live.
at
Wow.
least it's not telling you that you're AI.
Oh, have you had that before?
No, but some of my content creator friends have told me that they have been labeled as possible AI.
Oh,
Of
wow.
which case I've told all of them I knew it all along. I knew they were robots.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, so look, what was I saying? I just got completely derailed.
You were discussing whether or not it was possible that our president of Kenya could potentially be playing both sides. That was a
Oh, right.
postulation I put out
Yes.
there.
I mean, like I said, I think you've got it's a very decent hypothesis that I hadn't really considered. So yeah, well done. That's good. It's possible. Good. But I think that those countries haven't exhibited any. This is the thing. This is what I was saying. So if a country defaults on loans, like they said that they're not going to
Yes,
pay, no country has ever gone to war over owing anybody money.
right.
What they would do when you owe somebody money, they just stop giving you stuff. The deals dry up. You don't get any favorable till you give them back what you owe them. That's what happens.
Or they induce a sale of your national assets, which is what happened in Ghana and what happened in the Ukraine currently.
National assets in your country.
Yeah, so for instance, I can give you a story about Ghana chocolate in the late 1990s. I hope I don't
Okay.
bore your audience to tears on
No, no,
this,
no. Go ahead.
but it's an interesting and fascinating story. So Ghana was under President John Rawlings at the time, and at a certain point, 85% of economic activity was controlled by the Ghanaian government. They went under a currency attack, just like they had went under in 2022, where there was a lot of shorting done on their currency, drove value down. They needed money very quickly, and the stipulations on that was that in order to receive funding, that assets from Ghana needed to be sold. These would be toll roads, these would be factories that were owned by the government, natural resources, of course, and they were to get this money through the IMF, they would have to basically um, take these businesses, put them in packages, present them for sale on what was supposedly a closed bid system. Since which time we found out that the closed bid system from the IMF was not actually closed, that many of the bids are often leaked. And then the Western special interests would be able to gain access to basically assets for pennies on the dollar. In the case of Ghanaian chocolate, uh, one of the plans that was actually fought off was to just purchase the Ghanaian chocolate factories and what we call mothball them, basically lock the doors and don't let anyone in and sell everything off, so that
Right.
there would be no way to value add. So that's what happens when you get into debt with certain Western special interests. That's why they don't go to war, because before they even go to war, they know that you'll want a little bit more money.
Right.
And frankly, one of the points that I've brought up several times is that when you hear about a African leader who somehow ended up with a lot of money in the Western world, that's only because the Western world put it there. Anyone who's worked international business knows that you can't move money into Europe or America or any Western country freely.
Right.
It's not. I get flagged for $5,000 movements at times.
Right.
Like I have to go into the bank and explain myself on why I took $5,000 for a marketing budget.
You know what? You see
So
the comments. Time to Shift the Mothership just said the UN is moving some offices to Kenya. You know, I forgot about this.
yeah,
So
he's
for some
right.
months ago, yeah, some months ago, Tracy, some months ago, she said that, or rather, I got stories. So for people who don't know, I have a Patreon. These are the people who support my channel financially. There's a membership on Patreon.
Mhm.
So you can actually find that link is in my bio as well. And on the Patreon, we're having a conversation because they were sending me messages some months ago about how there was a lot of things being moved to Kenya. Like she said, the UN moving offices there and all this sort of stuff. I didn't really pay that much attention to it. But what is really getting me now is that, you know, that you've got to pay attention to every detail. All
Mhm.
the seemingly innocuous things that happen, it's all connected. Like this, what we're seeing now with these state visits, NATO offers, money, they're giving them 200 and $250 million is what America is giving these guys. You're seeing all of these things and you're like, no, the foundations were being laid years ago. Like, you know, they
Mhm.
knew this was going to happen. They started looking at situations that, look, how many allies can we get in Africa? What do we need to do? Who do we earmark? And clearly, Kenya and Rwanda have been selected as two countries to utilize. That's why, look, that Kenya, the Rwanda migrant deal, it doesn't make sense.
That's now for people in the audience. I find again, this is another thing I find Africans don't even know this story. So what's going on? So there's apparently, help me understand this. The UK is sending African
No,
migrants.
no, 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 no. That's what people think. That's what
So
people who
explain
even
what's
know
really
the story.
happening.
No, okay. So basically, the UK and everywhere in the West are having serious migrant issues. So people getting boats and things from all over, like Syria. A lot of them are coming from Syria, Middle East, Africa, all over the place, are just flooding into America and Europe. Okay. Now, because of their humanitarian rules, they're supposed to be allowing these people in because it's like it's backfiring on them because those rules are what they use against African nations and Middle Eastern nations. And now
Hmm.
it's backfiring because they're like, yeah, well, you can't turn people away either. When you're telling this to other people that, oh, you know, you're humanitarian, you shouldn't be. They're like, okay, now you've got to keep your borders. Anyway, they're having all these issues. And the current Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, well, this actually got started with Boris Johnson,
Hmm.
but Rishi Sunak is continuing it, needed to find a way to get rid of the migrants, you know, needed to find somewhere to put them. And what he decided to do was make a deal with Rwanda and say, listen, we will send you migrants, and in exchange for that, we will give you money. Okay. And Rwanda said, okay, we'll accept them on humanitarian quote unquote grounds. And the deal didn't go through because the Court of Human Rights, the European Court of Human Rights, said that, hey, you can't send migrants who are fleeing instability to a country that we cannot designate as fully stable and safe.
Right.
Rwanda, we can't call Rwanda a safe haven for migrants fleeing instability, because Rwanda are in the middle of like a border war with Congo, and they've got insurgencies. They just had 20 years ago a genocide, and they're still recovering from that, and they're building. We can't send migrants over there. Anyway, so the UK, instead of saying, oh, well, that was a crazy idea anyway, we're not, they said, no, we've got to figure out a way around this. So what they said is that they were trying, Rishi Sunak has been trying to change the law in the UK to allow them to designate Rwanda as safe haven. Now, that didn't work either. So what they're now doing is they're paying the migrants to go of their own free will for a paycheck to Rwanda, as opposed to paying Rwanda. So now they're saying, hey, migrants, here's money, get a flight and go to Rwanda. And Rwanda are now willing to accept them. And this for like this was like $240 million pounds or something.
Just to ask the question that might be on your audience mind.
Oh,
you are
sorry.
not making this up.
There's one more, and there's one more detail. The migrants are from anywhere. This is not African migrants. This is any migrants from anywhere.
So hold on. You're telling me if someone's fleeing from Afghanistan,
yes, they
has
get sent
no
to
knowledge
Rwanda.
of the English language,
they get sent to Rwanda. Yes.
And just to be fair to the audience, you're not making this up. This is really what's happening.
Read it. No, Google it right now. Google it right now. There is no. This is not like you have to be an African refugee to go to Rwanda. This is like anybody we want to send you: Syrians, Middle Arabs, Asian, African, whatever African nation, North Africa, South Africa, West Africa, East Africa. We send them to Rwanda. Listen,
for everyone in the audience, we have a free vacation for you to Rwanda.
On the same token, there were rumors, and I don't even think it's a rumor. I think this is fact. It might be fact, that Israel were trying to do a deal with Congo to send the refugees from Gaza, and Palestine to Congo. That's what I read like some months ago. And as far as what I read, it looked legit. Like that was really what they were trying to do after the war is over.
And we do the same thing in America. We just do it within the country. There's actually signs in New York City plainly posted that we will buy you a plane ticket to anywhere in America that's not here. A one-way ticket, just no questions asked. If you want a one-way ticket out of New York, we got you. Get the hell out of here.
Same deal. Same deal.
I do think you give up any moral high ground when that is your position.
No, but listen, see, this is the thing that I said. You see, what do you think is going to happen in Rwanda in 20, 30 years' time? We don't need to get into that because I did a video about that. So I posted when I had a conversation on another show about this. But this is the thing. This is an ignorance issue. The people of Rwanda, when I posted my video about this story, a lot of Rwandans were commenting on my video who didn't know about this. They didn't know. They had no idea this was going on. I was the news. When I told people that 20% of their country had been sold to to the UAE, I was the one they found out that information from. They said, I didn't know that my country, really, I had no idea that part of my country had been sold. That was the reality of, or is the reality of what we're dealing with here, which is why I say, as you talked about the newsletter and the information and the videos and everything, that's why all of this is so important. Ignorance is our enemy. We just simply don't have the information.
Yeah, and so, people in Rwanda, like you said, they don't know what's happening to their own country. and that is crazy that they're being kept in the dark on that. And I think that people, from Rwanda rather, would I think that they would recognize the immorality of shipping people around the world like that they are disposable. Um, Particularly when there's no benefit to Rwanda, what capacity does Rwanda have to take care of these individuals? Are they supposed to starve in the street, or like how are we supposed, like, what is supposed to happen with them? Is there any
This
tracking?
I don't believe so. You know what? Let's go into overtime now. I'm going to go into overtime.
I only have one big factor, and that is power.
Uh-oh. I just accidentally killed my TikTok live stream
All
by
right, not a
mistake.
problem. We will just simply reactivate that.
Let me restart this. I mean, how the hell do I, let me see, go live. I'm going to make it subscriber only this time. Oh, let me see, go live. Yeah, I don't know how to, I used to know how to do this. Let me see if I can make this work. Live.
So I see that you are live again.
Oh, wait a minute. Did I come back? Oh no, wait. Okay, sorry. Wait, hold on. Let me restart that. I had because I can actually set it so that it's just subscribers.
You might kick me out. Let me subscribe to you really quick, MERC.
Did it kick you out? Oh, it will kick you out. Why?
I think I have to grab a MERC subscription.
Oh, really? Okay. Let me see.
I might as well do it anyway, guys.
Longer videos may reach more viewers. Longer live videos. Let me see. What is this? Subspace, subtimer, sub only live. There we go. Switch. Okay.
There you go, MERC. I don't know why I was not a subscriber on your channel, and that's a message for everyone out there. Subscribe to these channels.
I think I've sorted it now. Yes, subscriber only now. All right, great. All right. All right, great. All right, so look, I mean, I think you know, the things that you've brought up are very, very interesting because I hadn't thought of some of the ideas in terms of what Kenya might be doing, and I don't believe that that is the case in terms of why he's acting the way he's acting. I think that it is actually personal. I think that it is a retirement plan, and I think one of the most important factors of what is going on now is we need to be more educated on history, even just basic history of how African countries got to where they are now so that we can be better equipped to make the right decisions going forward. You see, for example, if we knew the history of NATO and we knew the history of the impact of NATO or the G7 on Africa, on international foreign policy and policy to do with Africa specifically. Because if you think about it, you look at all the countries in G7 outside of Japan, so don't worry about Japan, but those countries are colonialists. Like they're colonial powers. Like really? I mean, I guess you could say Canada wasn't, but I mean, Canada is really sort of an offshoot of them.
Right.
So I'm just like, you look at it and like, look, Germany, Canada, USA, UK, France, like all of these guys, like the interests of the G7, you cannot say it's in alignment with us.
Would you mind adding me over on the TikTok side?
Oh, sorry. Yes. See you there.
For the audience over there.
There we go. There we go.
Okay, perfect. Well, great to be back, guys. on
Okay.
TikTok
Don't
as
worry.
well.
It's subscriber only anyway on TikTok now. So,
Right.
all right, go on.
No, I really do think that you're hitting on some critical points, and the question is, how do we get the information out about what's happening quicker than the other side can get the misinformation out?
The only way is what we said. You're right. I mean, that is the key. And the only way is what we said. It's like you have to put yourself in a position where, whether it's through the email channels, whether it's through, I don't know, you've got to put yourself in a position where you can press a button and get information out directly to your audience, unfiltered. Whether you have your own website, which is what I also talk about. Let me get, okay, so we're talking earlier today, which I haven't really announced this.
All right.
Well, we're talking about my products, the shopping thing, and
Yes.
so on and so forth. And I was telling you about how, well, you know what a really important factor is we have to put ourselves in a position where we have financial acumen, we have the financial ability to do what we've got to do. So a lot of the problems that we have, even with information dissemination, is that we just don't have the resources to advertise. We don't have the resources to generate the kind of material we need to generate. So, for example, you have bottlenecks whereby you want to make all these videos. If you are going to be able to generate those videos, you need to pay editors, get researchers, because if you had the resources to do all of that, and all you had to do was just somebody did everything for you and you just sit in a chair, record, and walk out, you generate 20 times the number of videos that you'd want to. But I think that in and of itself means that you have to start thinking differently about the ecosystem of what you're doing. And even connecting it to Kenya and William Ruto, it's like, theoretically, what you're doing on the surface is that this is about money and for the good of your country. So you're trying to create revenue streams for your country to develop. I don't believe that's the reason why he's doing it, to be honest, but that is theoretically what it is. When you do that, though, if you can do that by getting an autonomous stream of income, you are always better off. So you see, for me, with this platform, for example, being able to create a revenue stream that is completely autonomous of any entity so that, you're not beholden to anybody and you're able to make your decisions yourself is the most amenable way of going forward, in my opinion. But I think the pathway to getting there, and as you say, getting information to people quickly, that's the real challenge.
Right. When we're trying to disseminate information, oftentimes when we're looking at like putting a message out, we have to kind of work within the confines of the system. Even the concept of going viral basically refers to us being able to successfully play the system. For your videos that have gone millions, you've gotten millions and millions of views, Merck, and you've had videos that are just as good, go to
That do
5,000.
nothing. Yeah, they do nothing.
Exactly. And that's just, and what's happening is that there is a gatekeeper. If you were going out and, you think about this, think about what we would do in our life, right? If you were going out and you were shopping for a car, you wouldn't go to somebody else and say, hey, yeah, go get me a car and just send me the bill. No. Even if the guy says, yeah, I kind of really know what you're looking for. No, you want to go out there and you want to get the car that you want. But with our information, we've decided implicitly or explicitly that we want someone in Silicon Valley, someone at Oracle, someone in China, if you want to go that route, that person should decide what information comes to you. I would propose
Right.
something different. Why don't you, as a person who consumes information, be more proactive? Go out there, subscribe to your newsletter. I'm not just pushing that out there, even if it's not. I think you should. Your newsletter is great, right? But putting that aside, that I think everyone should subscribe to your newsletter. Subscribe to things where you're controlling your flow of information without having
Right.
a middleman.
Right. Yes. No, I think it's not just about my newsletter. I think it's just the general way people think about things. Do you know that there was again, Patreon, my Patreon, that community, they've given me a lot of food for thoughts. There's one guy on there, give him a shout out, OOCP Ivan, a guy called Ivan on my Patreon. One of my top Patreon contributors. He's an ancestor member. That's the top tier member. I was talking to him about the True History of Africa books. And he told me that I should, why am I going through Amazon? You know, because I was talking about the Amazon page and promoting. He said, no, why don't you just set up your own warehouse and, you know, do your own thing and sell the material yourself? And then when he said that, I was like, I was instantly anxious. And I had to really sit back and reflect on what is my anxiety? What is my fear?
Okay.
This links to William Ruto and Kenya and going back to America and dealing with NATO. It's familiar. It's safe. It is the big daddy who's always looked after everybody or taking care of everybody. Not really, but you know what I mean, who's in charge.
Right.
Let's just go back to them. We don't have to work, blah, 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 blah. We don't have to take responsibility for this and so on and so forth. When he said that to me, I had a lot of anxiety because I was like, wait a minute, you mean I'm not going to be with Amazon or any of the, you know, how am I going to survive? Like, how will I get this out? Like, how will I sell this? And it took me many months to really get my head around the idea of, no, this is about getting your information out. If you can figure out a way through your channels and through your thing to get distribution to function, you are way better off selling direct to consumer than utilizing somebody else's platform where they decide who they're going to push it out to and who they won't want. Because if you're on Amazon, they'll decide what customers they're going to put your product in front of to consider buying it. And they're taking the lion's share of the royalties as well anyway. So, you know, I mean, it made me think, and I think that sort of mentality is what helps when you then look at what Kenya is doing. Because it allows me to look at that through a different lens, where I'm thinking, why are you going back to the United States? There's no reason to be with the United States.
Right. It's and again, it's the familiarity. You're talking about developing industries. You're talking about stuff that could be a huge challenge, and you're talking about something where you could fail, and where the responsibility will fall on you if you fail. Now, whether you're talking about William Ruto or anyone else, or even yourself personally, when you go out on a ledge and you're creating something,
Yes.
now there's no fall guy. There's no one to blame. It's all you. But I will say that although it's not a guarantee, the greatest successes have come from people who've made that leap. The UAE is a wonderful example of that, of a country which operated strategically, invested long term, valued their own autonomy, and they were rewarded financially. Whether or not they're at the most ideal point, I think that is debatable, but the fact that they are better than where they were in the 90s when they had oil, I don't believe that that's debatable, though. I'm sure some people could make a point against me.
Yeah, no, listen, I agree with you. I feel like, you know, the greatest successes have come from people who take that jump or who take that leap. I don't think as Africans we are conditioned to take that leap. Because more often than not, we do not succeed because you get sabotaged down the line. Because like I said, you just look at all the leaders, the African leaders who tried to do these things and they were all sabotaged.
I will point out, though, that a lot of we learn from the past. The leaders that were sabotaged in the past did not have the access to social media that they have today. They didn't have the understanding of history, tactics. And I would say that the leaders today, I wouldn't call them westernized, but I would call them familiarized to what happens in the Western world and really what's going to be coming down the pike for them. I don't think that the president of Burkina Faso is in any way ignorant to what happened to Thomas Sankara. I don't think he's ignorant to what happened to Gaddafi. Nor do I think that he understands what's happening and is not doing anything proactively to prevent that. Um, and having those probably difficult conversations with China and Russia about really what the threats are. And really, if I think it's if we're having this conversation in 2030, Burkina Faso has done just fine. They're growing quickly. Uh, a person like William Ruto probably wouldn't even accept the trip to the
That
Oval Office.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think William Ruto is from the old guard,
Oh, absolutely.
and the reality is that we're getting into an era of Africa where you look like a clown if you do that in the future. Like in a few years' time, accepting an invitation like that will make you look like a clown because the wave is moving in a different direction now. Like things are moving in a different direction. The fact that we're even having this conversation didn't exist a few years ago
Yeah.
on any platform. The fact that people can sit down and talk about that visit this way from an African perspective and say that, hey, this is not a good idea. And you're a Westerner, and we're having this conversation, but you're able to see that, oh, look, there is no reason for Kenya to be in that position. And there's no reason Kenya getting into a situation where they're now a friend of NATO. What does that even mean for? It doesn't mean anything for Africa.
Well, it does. It means that they've just put themselves in the crosshairs. They may believe that they're getting a crown, but it might be a sword above their head.
This is true because you've got to pay. I mean, everything comes with payment.
Hmm.
Everything. And I think that is what those Sahel countries are trying to get out of is that we don't want you to. If you want to come and attack us, France, you're going to have to do it now in broad daylight. That's the
Right.
position France is now in because you once you've kicked them out and we don't have anything to do with you in those respects. If you want to come and get us, you're going to have to do it in broad daylight now, where everybody can see what you're doing.
And with all due respect to the French military, after what's happened to them historically, I highly doubt they're going to be doing anything without the United States being tagged along. So the escalation would go significantly higher than what they may like.
No,
Uh,
exactly.
and so I think when you're talking, I think your point is right. When we're talking about chess moves, Burkina Faso is the one making a real chess move here.
And Niger, to be honest.
And I would say that. I think they have a way to go. I think that this is not, you would use the word checkmate. I would say right now, they've made a very good opening. I think that checkmate comes when they've developed to their fullest extent, when they have fully utilized their own natural resources and they're not being exploited by non-equitable trade deals. I think that's when they can say checkmate at that point, and I will agree with them. As of
Right.
now, check at best.
Right. Well, yeah, look, I mean, I think that I don't know. I mean, it's a difficult one because you can't even say that you're at the end of any kind of conversation about this because it's sort of an ongoing thing. But I guess in closing for this particular day's conversation about it, it's like, look, we have to create a climate where the reason why the Kenyan president wouldn't be able to do something like this is because he knows too many people in the country or continent will see it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why you're able to get away with this is that he knows people are just ignorant. They don't know, or they're not even paying attention. Let me give you an example. A Western country couldn't pull this off. They couldn't. Because the people they'll be shamed. The people are too aware. Listen, and we're ignorant, in these Western nations like America, UK, they're ignorant of a lot. There's a lot that they don't know. But on a basic level, if you're looking at this on a sliding scale, they are way, way higher up that totem pole than the average African in terms of just having general awareness of what's happening. So you would never get away with something like this. Like Rishi Sunak is not going to go and visit the Middle East and go to visit a mosque and do something that makes England look like they're being subservient to Dubai or to Saudi Arabia. He's never going to do that for all the money in the world because he will lose the next election immediately.
This was something that I thought was very unfair, but I'll bring up this point, is that when Barack Obama had visited Asian countries, when he had visited royalty, he had acted with due respect to them. He had bowed when he was supposed to bow. He had lowered his head as you were supposed to, as any of us would have done as a sign of respect. But the second the media got a hold of that, they shamed Obama for being socially aware, because it could be spun just so much that he was somehow being subservient. And
Right.
why are you, as the president of America? No, you don't bow to anybody. How
Right.
could you?
Right.
Could you imagine President Obama? What would happen if that guy was sitting in a throne with the smiling with a Middle Eastern king behind him, with his hand on his back, saying "Good boy"?
Oh no, he wouldn't make it back to America. Like, it's over.
I mean, at that point,
Career is finished.
the most diehard Americans would abandon him.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think that when you put it into that kind of context, it makes it easier for people to understand what this means. It's like, you've got essentially a colonial power and an African president from a country that is still dealing with all the issues that it's dealing with, going to sit in the president's chair smiling and being invited into a European coalition.
I might have some latent colonialist blood in my system, because when I look at that, all I think to myself is, "Oh, I got this guy."
Oh yeah.
Like, when I look at that, I'm like, "Oh, we got him good.
Oh yeah,
he's ours.
Oh yeah.
That's our
Oh,
guy.
yeah.
Come on."
Oh yeah. No, it's obvious. It's really bad. It was a bad look. It's a bad look. But you know what? Look, any last words before we shut this one down?
Well, again, I want to say my overall. We're talking a lot about the problems that we see in Africa, and oftentimes that is where conversations gravitate. But I'd also point out, just for everyone out there, overall, the growth in Africa, the raising of standard of living, the adding of value add has been absolutely incredible. And then the reason a lot of us are so against when we see something that's pushing back against us is that we've seen the progress that has been made on the ground. We see Africa growing rapidly, and it bothers us whenever we see anything that could slow it down, because we all, I think, share the same vision of a unified Africa with prosperity, with fairness. And that's where I think that we're going. So don't take any of this as too negative. I still am a huge believer in Africa, and can't wait to see what's going forward. Love the conversation, and I hope everyone subscribes to your newsletters, guys. I'm not saying this just because this is my friend here. I'm saying this is a really, really good newsletter, guys. Read it. You'll love it. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you from the Roars team.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. Thank you, guys. That's www.alkebulan.media. That's the newsletter. Had a great conversation. If you have any thoughts, please leave them in the comments. Shutting down the TikTok now. And on YouTube, as I said, make sure you are subscribed and